If you wish to be loved, love. Seneca. The Stoics weren't romantics, but they understood people. They mastered the art of perception, of paying attention to subtle details that others ignore. And when it comes to women, that skill separates the man she forgets from the one she can't stop thinking about. So if you want to know what she really wants, but will never say out loud, stay exactly where you are. These 7 truths have nothing to do with texting her back faster or liking her Instagram posts. They go much deeper. Watch until the end, because the last one is what most men miss completely. Like, subscribe, comment your story, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Chapter 1. Listen without her having to ask. The difference between a man she respects and a man she merely tolerates often comes down to one deceptively simple thing: the tension. Not the loud, performative kind that comes wrapped in flowers and fancy words. Not over-the-top declarations or dramatic romantic gestures. What truly separates you is whether you're actually present when she speaks. Whether you're paying attention, not to reply, not to fix, but to understand. That's the test most men fail. That's where connection either deepens or quietly dies. When a woman shares something with you, especially the small, seemingly insignificant details, she's not just talking to fill the silence. She's inviting you into her emotional world. She's testing the waters. Will he care about what I care about? Will he hear me when it's not convenient? Will he make space for my voice without me having to demand it? And the moment you shrug it off, minimize it, or forget it entirely, something in her shuts down. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But slowly, silently, she begins to retreat. And once that emotional distance sets in, it's hard to close the gap. Most men miss this completely. They believe listening is passive. They sit there, half distracted, nodding occasionally while she speaks, but they're not present. They think just being physically near her is enough. But it's not. True listening is active. It's rooted in presence, in full engagement. You lean in. You put down your phone. You catch the subtle changes in her tone. You remember that random comment she made in the car 2 weeks ago, and you bring it up when it matters. That's the kind of awareness that makes a woman feel cherished. That's what makes her feel seen, not for her body, not for her utility, but for who she is. And here's the part no one tells you: when a woman doesn't feel heard, it's not just emotional, it's existential. She starts to feel invisible. Unworthy. Like she's becoming background noise in her own relationship. And when that happens, resentment starts to build. Not the explosive kind. The slow, poisonous kind. She starts to pull away, not because she stopped loving you, but because it hurts too much to keep trying when she feels unseen. And no woman wants to feel like she has to beg to be noticed. She doesn't want to be a nag. She wants to feel heard, understood, valued. And if she doesn't, she will eventually stop talking altogether, or worse, she'll start talking to someone else who actually listens. A Stoic man understands this on a deep level. He knows that being present isn't just about being physically there. It's about emotional awareness. It's about tuning in even when he's tired, even when he's stressed, even when the subject matter isn't something he's naturally interested in. Because he values her, not just her usefulness in his life. He listens with the same discipline he applies to his training, his work, and his goals. Because to him, mastery of the mind includes mastery of attention. And nothing earns more respect from a woman than a man who makes her feel emotionally safe, not with promises, but with consistent presence. Listening becomes a form of intimacy. It becomes foreplay. It becomes the unspoken language that says, "You matter. I'm here. I see you." And that, more than any gift, more than any grand gesture, melts her defenses. When you respond with insight, not with solutions, but with empathy, you build trust. You show her that you're not just a man who wants her, but a man who values her thoughts, her emotions, her complexity. And women don't forget men like that. It's easy to dismiss this as sensitivity, to believe that being stoic means being emotionally detached. But that's not stoicism. That's avoidance. Real stoic power is calm under pressure and presence in connection. It's being emotionally sovereign, not emotionally absent. It's showing up in the moment, not overwhelmed by emotion, but not disconnected from it either. That kind of presence is rare. And that's exactly why it's so damn attractive. So the next time she talks, especially when it's something small, treat it like a signal. Because it is. It's her way of saying, see me. Hold space for me. Show me I'm not alone in this. And if you can rise to that challenge again and again, you don't just win her heart, you keep it. Without begging, without chasing. Simply by doing what most men are too distracted, too self-centered, or too weak to do, listen, without her having to ask. Chapter 2. Be a man, be a gentleman, and be confident. There's a quiet, commanding power in the simple things, a hand offered to help her out of the car, opening the door without making a show of it, offering you a jacket when the temperature drops, not because she asked, but because you noticed. Being a gentleman isn't about being old-fashioned. It's about being anchored. It shows the world, and her, that you are not reacting to life, you are responding with presence and principle. You are not chasing approval. You're setting a standard. When you behave like a gentleman, you embody a form of masculine grace. It's not weakness. It's not submission. It's leadership in its most elegant form. It says, I don't need to dominate to feel strong. I lead through care, through structure, through calm authority. That's what creates trust. That's what creates safety. Women are not drawn to men who seek to impress them. They're drawn to men who carry themselves like they don't need to be impressive. And ironically, that is exactly what makes them irresistible. Confidence is the invisible backbone of real masculinity. It's not loud. It's not cocky. It doesn't try to steal the room, it owns it without effort. It's the calm voice that doesn't rise just to be heard. It's the eye contact that doesn't waver. It's the silence you're not afraid to sit in. Women can feel it. From the second you enter the room, your energy announces you long before your mouth does. True confidence says, I know who I am. I know what I value. And I don't need to convince anyone of it. This kind of grounded confidence creates polarity, that tension between masculine presence and feminine energy. It creates attraction that goes beyond looks, beyond words. It makes her feel safe to soften, to relax, to trust. And trust is the foundation of everything. Without it, nothing deep can grow. When you show up with calm certainty, it gives her permission to fully express herself without fear of instability on your end. That's powerful. That's rare. But here's where many men get it wrong. They confuse confidence with ego. And ego is a brittle mask. It postures. It overreacts. It needs validation. The moment life punches it in the mouth, it shatters. A man ruled by ego can't lead because he can't even lead himself. He blames others. He makes excuses. He hides his flaws and denies his fears. But a stoic man? He does the opposite. He owns everything. The good, the bad, the uncomfortable truths. Not because he enjoys pain, but because he respects reality more than comfort. When a man can look a woman in the eye and say, I messed up. That's on me, something shifts. That's the moment he separates himself from the masses. because most men are terrified of vulnerability. But true strength doesn't avoid vulnerability, it uses it. It integrates it. It refines it into wisdom. When you admit you're wrong, when you show humility, it doesn't make you smaller. It makes you real. And women are starving for men who are real. A Stoic man balances strength with stillness, power with humility, leadership with openness. He is decisive, but he listens. He leads, but he learns. He protects, but he doesn't control. And this balance, this rare emotional intelligence, makes a woman feel something she doesn't feel with most men: reverence. Not just admiration, but respect. She sees you not just as a partner, but as a rock. Someone who won't waver when the winds of life get harsh. Being a man in the modern world doesn't mean becoming colder, harder, or emotionally dead. It means becoming sharper, more aware, more intentional. You cultivate discipline, not for control, but for freedom. You hold yourself to a higher standard, not to impress her, but because that's who you are. And in that standard, she sees a man who won't crumble when life gets messy. She sees someone who can handle the storms, who won't drag her down, but will lift her up. When you show up like this, consistently, not just in the good moments, but especially in the hard ones, you become unforgettable. You don't just become a man she desires. You become a man she respects. A man she trusts with her heart, her body, her future. Because she knows you're not ruled by impulse. You're not led by fear. You're not performing masculinity, you embody it. And in a world full of boys pretending to be men, that kind of presence is rare. That kind of presence changes everything. Chapter 3. Attention. If you think giving her attention just means spending time in the same room, watching the same show, or having the occasional dinner together, you're missing the point entirely. Women don't just want presence, they want presence with intention. They want to feel like they matter in the small, quiet details. It's not enough to just be around, she needs to feel that you see her. That even when your schedule is packed, even when your focus is stretched thin, she's not an afterthought. She's still a priority. She's still the one you choose, day after day, moment after moment. Attention isn't about grand gestures. It's not about spending money or creating some perfect Instagram-worthy experience. It's about attunement. It's about noticing the subtle shift in her mood and gently checking in. It's remembering the specific way she takes her coffee. It's planning a spontaneous weekend getaway just because she mentioned once that she misses the ocean. It's giving her a compliment, not because you're supposed to, but because you genuinely notice something different, something beautiful, something real. These things don't require a massive effort. They require awareness. And awareness is a form of love. Too many men fall asleep in their relationships. Not literally, but emotionally. Over time, especially in long-term relationships, it becomes easy to treat her as part of the background. She's just there. The fire dulls. The habits form. The passion fades. Not because the love is gone, but because the energy that once fueled the connection has been replaced by routine. The moment she starts to feel unseen, the connection starts to erode. Slowly at first. Quietly. She might not say anything. But inside, something shifts. And that shift is hard to reverse. A woman doesn't just want your body in the room, she wants your soul present. Your curiosity. Your attention to who she's becoming. Because people change. She's not the same woman she was last year. And neither are you. The couples who survive, who thrive, who grow stronger over time, they keep discovering each other. They don't let the mystery die. And that takes conscious effort. That takes paying attention not just to what she says, but to what she doesn't say. Not just to what she needs now, but to the woman she's slowly evolving into. A Stoic man practices active appreciation. He doesn't take her for granted. He doesn't assume her love is guaranteed. He understands that just as he guards his values, he must also guard the connection, and that means nurturing it. Attention is the currency of affection. When you stop paying it, things start to fall apart. Not always in dramatic fashion. Sometimes it's just a quiet emotional distance. Sometimes it's a sense of loneliness that creeps in even when you're lying right next to each other. And here's the raw truth: when a woman no longer feels seen, she starts looking elsewhere. Not always for another man, but for something to make her feel alive again. Something to remind her that she's still interesting, still desired, still worth noticing. That could be a career pivot, a new friend group, or emotional withdrawal. It's not about betrayal, it's about survival. And that spiral almost always begins when a man assumes that love can run on autopilot. It can't. This is why Stoic mindfulness is crucial in relationships. Being present doesn't mean being passive, it means being fully engaged. Being awake. Being intentional in your words, your tone, your gestures. It means choosing her in the everyday moments. Because it's those moments that matter most. The quick touch on the lower back. The unexpected compliment. The check-in during her stressful week. The text that simply says, "I'm proud of you." These things don't take much time, but they make a woman feel deeply valued. And when a woman feels valued, she opens. She softens. She begins to pour back into the relationship. When you approach attention this way, you stop seeing it as a chore. You start seeing it as a privilege. You realize that noticing her isn't just for her, it's also for you. Because it deepens your connection. It sharpens your empathy. It anchors you to what matters beyond your own needs. And in doing that, you become more grounded, more capable, more whole. That's the Stoic path, not to suppress emotion, but to channel it with clarity, wisdom, and care. So stop waiting for special occasions. Stop thinking that attention has to come in big, dramatic forms. Start with today. Notice something. Say something. Do something small but sincere. It's those daily investments that build a bond no storm can break. And when she knows that you see her, really see her, she blooms. Not because you completed a checklist, but because you stayed awake to what matters. And that's something most men never learn to do. Chapter 4. Take care of yourself. You don't need a six-pack. You don't need to be the richest man in the room. You don't need to wear designer clothes or drive the most expensive car. But you do need to give a damn about your body, your mind, and your life. Because whether they say it out loud or not, women notice when you stop trying. And it changes everything. They may not be able to articulate it. They may brush it off or suppress it. But it hits them at a visceral level. Something shifts in how they see you. The attraction fades, not because you're not enough, but because you stop being engaged with yourself. A man who takes care of himself radiates self-respect. It's not just in how he looks, but in how he carries himself. It's in his posture, the calm confidence in his voice, the way he enters a room with presence. When you're taking care of your physical health, when you're mentally engaged, when you're chasing goals that mean something to you, you become more than just attractive. You become magnetic. Your energy becomes undeniable. Your vitality becomes contagious. And women pick up on that instantly. But when you neglect yourself, when you eat garbage, stop moving, binge dopamine with screens and vices, it sends a very different message: I don't matter. And if you're subconsciously broadcasting that you don't matter, then why should she see you as someone valuable? Why should she trust your leadership, your frame, your future? You're telling the world, I've given up on myself, even if you're pretending everything is fine. And that's not something any emotionally healthy woman wants to lean into. This isn't about vanity. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about vitality. It's about showing up in life as someone who's awake. Women want to feel your life force. They want to feel like you're fully alive, engaged, curious, passionate about something beyond them. That energy is what draws them in. And it only comes from discipline, from habits, from taking care of your inner and outer world, not to seek approval, but because you respect yourself too much to let yourself fall apart. A Stoic man understands that the body is a vessel. He disciplines it not for vanity, but for presence, for strength, for the ability to stand tall and handle life's storms. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor of Rome, didn't indulge in luxury or softness. He trained his body. He trained his mind. Because he knew that physical resilience supports mental resilience. When your body is weak, your mind follows. When you're out of breath from a flight of stairs, how can you lead in times of pressure? When your diet fogs your brain and your routine saps your spirit, how can you be reliable, grounded, and capable? This is the deeper reason to stay sharp, not just for looks, but for clarity. When you move, when you lift, when you eat clean, when you rest well, your nervous system calms. You reduce anxiety. You make better decisions. You stop spiraling in the face of stress. And suddenly, you become the kind of man women trust. Not just desire, but trust. Because your stability is no longer a performance. It's real. It's built from daily effort. It's visible in how you show up, not just when things are easy, but when they're chaotic. Taking care of yourself also builds boundaries. You start saying no to what drains you. You stop tolerating low-value habits, people, or conversations. You protect your time and energy like your life depends on it, because it does. And that's attractive. That shows you have standards. That you aren't just available to anyone, anytime. That you prioritize your own well-being. And when a woman sees that, she respects it. She may test it, but deep down, she loves it. So this is your responsibility. Not just as a man, but as a human being who wants to live with meaning. Don't wait for a health scare. Don't wait until your life is in ruins. Don't wait until she pulls away emotionally. Start now. Move your body daily. Fuel it with respect. Read something that stretches your thinking. Build a vision. Protect your sleep. Eliminate the junk that's killing your drive. Choose discomfort over decay. Because the moment you start taking care of yourself is the moment everything begins to change, your energy, your focus, your magnetism. When you do this, you won't need to beg for attention. You won't need to prove yourself. You become the kind of man who draws interest without trying. Because you've done the inner and outer work. And that quiet, grounded self-respect, that's what sets you apart. That's what makes her want to stay. Chapter 5. Make the first move. There is nothing more attractive than decisiveness. A man who hesitates, who overthinks, who waits for permission to act, that's not a leader. That's a boy hoping for approval. And women don't respect that energy. They don't want to carry the burden of initiation. They don't want to be the ones constantly hinting, leading, or nudging you forward. What they truly crave, often without fully realizing it, is a man who acts with clear intent. A man who isn't paralyzed by fear or obsessed with outcomes. A man who simply moves. Whether it's walking up to her with confidence, initiating the first kiss, or planning the entire evening without second-guessing yourself, making the first move communicates something primal. I am not afraid. You're not waiting to be chosen, you're doing the choosing. You're not hunting for approval, you're making your presence known. And in a world filled with passive men and digital distractions, that kind of direct energy cuts through the noise like a blade. It snaps her into the moment. It forces her to feel something. And that's the spark. Women are deeply intuitive, but they're also deeply emotional. They respond to confidence, not analysis. A lot of men waste weeks trying to decode mixed signals, looking for a green light that never comes. But here's the truth, the real green light is your own courage. The more you hesitate, the more you broadcast insecurity. And the more she senses hesitation, the faster her attraction begins to fade. Not because you're unworthy, but because indecision kills polarity. Masculine energy leads. Feminine energy responds. That's nature. Most women won't give you obvious signs, not because they aren't interested, but because they want to feel your assertiveness. They want to experience your boldness. They want to know that you're willing to risk something, not just play it safe. It's not about being aggressive or pushy. It's about being deliberate, intentional. A man who owns his desire and expresses it with clarity and respect stands out from the crowd in a way that's impossible to ignore. The Stoics understood this. They didn't wait for ideal circumstances or perfect timing. They didn't let fear of rejection, embarrassment, or uncertainty dictate their actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But when it is right, when the moment does call for action, there's no hesitation. That's what you embody when you make the first move. You act with conviction. You move forward despite the nerves. And whether she responds with yes or no, you hold your frame. You don't shrink. You don't crumble. You carry yourself with quiet authority. And that alone separates you from 99% of men. Because most guys are stuck in their heads. They're addicted to overthinking. They fear looking foolish. But guess what? The man who never risks rejection never earns respect. The man who waits to be completely sure before he acts will always lose to the man who moves with faith in himself. Not arrogance. Not recklessness. Just a calm, grounded belief in who he is and what he wants. Making the first move is about more than just dating. It's a mindset. It's how you show up in life. It's how you walk into a room. It's how you speak, how you take initiative, how you own your presence. And the beautiful part? Even if you don't win, even if she's not interested, you still win. Because every time you face fear, you train your nervous system to stop worshipping comfort. You train your mind to prioritize action over avoidance. That is Stoic masculinity in motion. When you choose to act instead of waiting, you communicate a deep message to both yourself and the world: I am enough, even if the answer is no. That's where your power comes from. And that power is magnetic. Women sense it, even when you say nothing. It's in your posture. It's in your eye contact. It's in your presence. You don't need to explain yourself. You just need to move with confidence, with clarity, and with no apology. So stop waiting. Stop analyzing. Stop trying to be perfect. Make the news. Take the shot. Be the man who leads. Because that's what she's secretly waiting for. Not a boy who begs for validation, but a man who steps forward and says, I want you. And says it with his actions, not just his words. Chapter 6: Emotional Stability. There's a reason women are drawn to men who radiate calm. Emotional stability is like a lighthouse in a storm. It gives her something to hold on to when everything around her feels chaotic. In a world that often feels unpredictable, volatile, and demanding, a man who remains centered is a rare and magnetic presence. She may never articulate it, but deep down, she craves that kind of quiet strength. The kind of grounded masculinity that doesn't flinch in the face of pressure. Not just physical strength, but a deeper kind, emotional resilience. The kind of inner stillness that can only come from a man who has wrestled with himself and made peace with what he found. A woman instinctively tests for this without even meaning to. Life throws her challenges, and she wants to know that the man beside her won't flinch when she does. She wants to feel your emotional durability when she's overwhelmed, scared, or uncertain. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you can be solid. When she's breaking down, she's not looking for you to fix her. She wants to know you won't break down too. She wants to see if you can take her emotional intensity without becoming part of the chaos. This is where most men fail, not because they're weak, but because they haven't learned the power of calm. When she vents or cries or lashes out from a place of confusion or hurt, most men react. They argue. They try to fix. They take it personally. Or they shut down entirely, fearing their own inadequacy. But the Stoic man? He does none of that. He breathes. He listens. He holds the space like an anchor in the storm. And that kind of man is unforgettable. Emotional stability doesn't mean you become a doormat or emotionally numb. It means you choose your response rather than being yanked around by your feelings. It means you recognize her emotional intensity for what it often is, a cry for safety, not a personal attack. It means having the discipline to remain present when everything inside you wants to fight, flee, or shut down. This level of maturity is what separates a reactive man from a grounded one. The truth is, she will test you, consciously or not. She'll throw emotional chaos at you just to see if you can stand still in it. And it's not because she wants to destroy you. It's because she wants to know you're unshakable. Can she fall apart and know you'll still be there? Can she show her messiest, most vulnerable self and not feel judged, lectured, or abandoned? That's the real test. And every time you pass it, not by solving her problems, but by simply being unshaken, she'll feel more trust, more safety, and more attraction. This is the essence of masculine presence. It's the fire that doesn't burn out when the wind picks up. And women notice it, even if they don't know how to describe it. She'll say things like, "You just make me feel safe," or "I can finally relax around you." But what she's really sensing is your stillness, your discipline, your strength under pressure. You're not being tested because she wants to punish you. You're being tested because her nervous system is asking a question: can I relax with you? Can I trust that you won't collapse when I get overwhelmed? And your job as a man is to answer that with presence, not noise. When you stay calm, when you stay composed, when you hold your ground without getting drawn into the storm, she sees something she doesn't find often. And in that space, she melts. Not because you said the right thing. Not because you solved the issue. But because you stayed you. That's what Stoicism offers. It's not about being emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally sovereign. You don't let the outer world dictate your inner world. And when you carry that mindset into a relationship, it becomes a kind of emotional leadership. You lead by not reacting. You lead by staying rooted when everything else sways. To a woman, that's more than attractive, it's essential. Because when life hits hard, and it always does, she needs to know that her man is a rock. Not a robot. Not a rescuer. A rock. And when you show her that, not with words, but with your calm presence, she doesn't just feel affection, she feels reverence. And that changes everything. Chapter 7: Leadership in Daily Life. Leadership isn't about control. It's not about barking orders or dominating every conversation. It's not about ego or proving you're the alpha in the room. Real leadership is initiative. It's having the clarity to act when others hesitate. It's having the backbone to choose a direction and the emotional intelligence to carry people with you. A woman doesn't want to be controlled, she wants to be able to relax in your presence, to trust your judgment, and to know that when life throws challenges at you both, you won't fold. That's leadership. That's strength. And that's what she's instinctively looking for in a man, whether she says it or not. Everyday leadership shows up in the little things. It's deciding where to eat without turning it into an endless back and forth. It's getting the oil changed without being told. It's handling bills, logistics, or unexpected issues without needing a roundtable discussion. It might seem minor to you, but to her, these small acts speak volumes. They communicate decisiveness, presence, and capability. They tell her she's not alone in carrying the mental load. That she doesn't always have to be the one keeping things together. And the moment she feels that relief, that calm, that's when you step into a rare kind of power most men never touch. Women are constantly analyzing whether or not a man is dependable, whether he's solid or shaky. And they don't just make that judgment when life is hard, they make it during the quiet, forgettable moments. When you say, "We're doing this tonight," instead of the week, "I don't know, what do you want to do?" That's when she sees something in you shift. It doesn't mean you become a dictator or ignore her preferences. It means you guide the flow of things. That sense of direction gives her something to lean into. It helps her soften, trust, and open up. Because when a woman feels like she has to lead both her life and the relationship, she begins to feel exhausted and eventually resentful. Leadership is also about how you respond to pressure. When the unexpected hits, money problems, stress, arguments, do you react with panic and blame? Or do you pause, breathe, and problem solve? Do you collapse into indecision or step forward with calm resolve? Stoic men are forged in those moments. They lead themselves first. They manage their reactions, master their emotions, and stay rooted when things get chaotic. And because they've done the internal work, they're able to lead others without needing validation or applause. That kind of calm, consistent authority doesn't shout, it simply exists. And it commands respect without asking for it. In a relationship, the leadership becomes magnetic. When you're able to hold space, make decisions, and bring structure to her emotional world, she doesn't just feel attracted to you, she feels safe. And safety is the foundation of intimacy. When she knows she can lean on you without fear that you'll disappear, deflect, or break down, her guard drops. Her femininity flourishes. She becomes more giving, more open, more trusting. And all of that stems from you showing leadership in the simple, subtle rhythms of daily life. A Stoic man isn't reactive. He doesn't chase chaos, and he doesn't need to control. But he also doesn't wait around hoping someone else will handle it. He steps forward when it matters. He leads not because he needs to prove something, but because it's who he is. Because he's cultivated inner order, and that order naturally shapes the outer world. And in doing so, he becomes not just attractive, but irreplaceable. That's the kind of leadership she craves. Not the loud kind. The steady kind. The one that makes her feel anchored without being caged. The one that allows her to relax into her feminine because she knows the masculine is holding steady. And when she experiences that, when she feels it, something in her shifts. She looks at you differently. She trusts you more deeply. And she respects you without you ever needing to demand it. That's the silent power of real masculine leadership. And that's what she's been waiting for. At the core of Stoicism is self-mastery, because only when you govern yourself can you show up as the kind of man who earns real respect, real trust, and real love. These 7 things she wants, they're not tricks. They're not hacks. They're reflections of the kind of presence, strength, and discipline that set you apart. Women don't fall for words. They fall for energy. For the quiet confidence of a man who listens without being told, who leads without dominating, who feels without collapsing. A man who doesn't chase, but attracts. Not because he plays games, but because he's done the inner work. You want to be unforgettable? Be that man. The one who sees her, hears her, respects her, and lives by values stronger than his impulses. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what she really wants, but will never say out loud. And now that you know, what you do next is up to you. Subscribe if this hit you where it counts. Comment below which truth you've mastered or which one you're ready to start practicing today. And remember, the man who improves himself improves everything around him. Be unshakable. Be intentional. Be stoic.